Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And with us also is the co-pilot of Hot Chocolate Media, Mr. Jacob Gulliver. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on again.
Indeed, indeed. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize, guys. You probably both wearing headphones. It was probably painful.
It's fine.
As we find ourselves on the cusp of Disney's big venture into the world of streaming, even courting a war in the process, we thought it'd be nice to stay up to date on the ever-growing catalog and rule on what's a must or a bust on Disney Plus. And guys, tonight we're talking about a subject so bold and so daring that no other superhero show has ever covered it before. We're talking finances, baby! Finances!
All right, talking some Falcon finances.
Financial trouble. Yeah, we're talking therapy.
Financial struggle and the winter strife. Yeah.
All right. In all seriousness, guys, I got to admit, this episode was a very solid way to open things out. But when I was watching it with my dad, I kind of said halfway through, like, "Oh, I bet this episode is just kind of like set up. I bet there's not a lot that's like actually gonna, I bet that Bucky and Sam don't even get together in this episode." And sure enough, that's what happened. Solid setup. I can't wait to see what happens next. At this point, I just think the MCU is just an unstoppable machine. Like, they reached their ultimate crescendo with Endgame, and they're like, "No, we're just gonna keep going." Not only are we going to keep going, but we're branching out into other mediums, and it's still just going to be just as good. So I don't know what to tell you guys. Literally, it's like another week, another awesome MCU property. I'm excited about the future of this to see where it goes. But I will say, as far as the premiere episode goes, fantastic opening action scene, great character building for both our title characters. Not a whole ton beyond that, but that's mostly what we need for an episode 1. So overall, I'm satisfied. All right, I'm going to go to the comments here before I hit you gentlemen up. Donovan Barden says, solid opening episode. He also says, I really like how it's dissecting both Bucky and Sam and really exploring their flaws and perhaps their past sins that they have to atone for in order to live up to Cap's legacy. Then it killed me that Bucky killed one of his old friend's sons. Yes, that was a killer. We'll talk about that. And then Claude Kringa on board. Hey there, Claude. WandaVision episode 1 versus episode 1. Ooh, Falcon Winter Soldier, which is better? You know what? At this point, I'm gonna be bold and say Falcon Winter Soldier, but you know what? I'll let you two give your thesis statements, and then we kind of have that discussion. Dragon, you are the Cap super fan, so I'm going to make you wait. Jacob, what do you think of this episode?
Sure. I definitely enjoyed it. I think exactly as you said, there's a lot of setup happening here, which means that there are parts when it kind of drags a little bit, which is a little frustrating, but there are definitely sequences that were really enjoyable. The fight scene at the beginning was definitely quite good. They're using a style to kind of visually mimic the way that Winter Soldier was, Cap 2, with a very low frame rate to kind of make the action feel sort of intense. It's not a style that I love. To be perfectly frank, because it tends to make the action hard to follow, and it also means that crappy fight scenes can get covered up by choppy camera. I don't think that the fight scenes here were crappy, so I don't know why they felt they needed to do it. Is kind of my film perspective on this. But yeah, overall, I
Well,
enjoyed it. I'm curious to see what they're setting up, in-depth stuff to chat about. But I'm gonna hear what Dragon has to say first.
All right, Dragon. Spotlight's on you, buddy. This is the most anticipated thing for you on Disney Plus thus far since launch.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been waiting at least over a year for this thing. I thought this was an excellent start and setup episode. I was very happy watching this. Very happy. It's great to see the aftermath that explore. Basically, we see aftermath explored in the MCU within these Disney Plus series. It definitely seems to be the stamp that we're making with this, and especially WandaVision. Very internalized with WandaVision here. Very there, and very again, very just kind of we're seeing the world at large here versus like kind of more individually with the character that we did with Wanda Maximoff in WandaVision. In terms of regards to the question,
with WandaVision, episodes 1 through 3 kind of serve as like one complete like start to that story. Whereas with this, I feel like in episode 1, we've got most of the setup that we need out of the way. So in that respect, I feel like this is at least more economic in how it's telling its story than WandaVision was.
Yeah, well, this is
WandaVision was a little bit indulgent with the sitcom stuff. Sorry, Dragon, go ahead.
Well, this is a horse of a different color in that WandaVision, again, is literally like we're doing a TV show within the MCU. That's very much what that is. This, on the other hand, is this is a movie in 6 parts.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of funny the week that this comes out, what its competition is, given the whole multi-part thing. But anyway, the point being, it's a movie in 6 parts, hopefully done.
So many memes.
Yes, but that's like so. This is so I'm very much like this is very much kind of the setup for the movie that we're about to incur and about to just kind of like go forward in. And I'm so impressed with the character moments in this episode specifically, and I like basically to me this episode feels like a great. There's breath before the action. We get little snippets of action which are good, and they're kind of teeing things up. They're not quite the big action we're gonna get, but I just love the kind of the breaths and just kind of the slice of life in between. That's really. I mean, my heart was so so swept up in what these guys were going through. And I like understanding, where a character's going to go through, kind of like we saw, the man at a time stuff at the top of Winter Soldier. So I'm very much in the camp of I like this. Obviously, I got a little bit more stake in this. Nothing against WandaVision. I love WandaVision, but I'm saying in terms of what you accomplish with your first episode, I think you get a little more of a sampling of what you're about to get here than you do with WandaVision. To Tiki's point, it is kind of like the first 3 episodes are pretty much that's like an elongated first episode. So in that respect, I mean, I don't think it's any contest. Falcon Winter Soldier episode 1, that's kind of your more impressive kind of a splash. But again, horse of a different color. So
the opening action scene, I will say, is probably more impressive than any of the action scenes in WandaVision.
I got to tell you, what impresses me even more than that, as great as that opening action sequence is, and it's great. I love like you could. I love how we push in on Falcon and just kind of internalize what the guy's going through in those scenes. Like the man's just ironing a suit and he's putting that shield away, but you can feel the dramatic heft. Then we get our whammo blammo action scene, and then we see, oh, that's what he's preparing for. Okay, the big. I guess like the way we're pushing in on Mackie was so good in this first episode. Man, he was so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
With Claude's question of Snyder Cut versus Falcon Winter Soldier, I mean it's a horse of a different color, but I mean Snyder Cut, that's a gold goose, my friend. And Dragon, I have some words for you, my friend. All I can say to tease up the Snyder Cut podcast, which, by the way, everyone, that's happening tomorrow. I expect you all to be there on the button class, but Dragon, I all I can say is I don't know about you, but if you're in a similar position to me, I am preparing to eat some crow.
Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. That's all I can say. All right. Anyway, so where do you want to start, guys?
Well, I mean, unless Gulliver, unless you had any preference. Thinking about kind of the Batrock fight, kind of the back rock, the leaper fight at the top.
Yeah, I mean that's a good place to start as any. I mean, it's clear that they wanted to set the tone that this was going to be at the same tier as the films in a lot of ways.
And Gulliver, I do agree with you about the
Yeah.
style, by the way. I'm with
Yeah.
you on the style. I feel like it's not really needed. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. Well, they definitely dished out, big bucks for some special effects and some, bigger action sequences that got much smaller as the episode went on. I think that there's, something to be said for establishing it that way to kind of tie it to the greater MCU. But
yeah,
I did feel like I was a little let down by like the rest of the episode in terms of like the normalcy of it. It wasn't like, it was a lot more mundane.
I definitely got some Marvel Netflix
like,
vibes.
Sure. Yeah. Like 10 or 15 minutes in, I was kind of feeling like, okay, the action's slowing down kind of a bit. I mean, let's pick it up a little bit again. But, I think that said, it's valuable to show, these guys who've lived these crazy lives in a situation that's more normal. They're still normal people. They're still affected by the world around them. They still have responsibilities outside of their cool suits and high tech. So it was good to see that and really feel a connection to them throughout the rest of the episode.
I mean, I joked about the whole Falcon having financial issues thing, but in reality, I mean, shit, it's one of the first times, like, outside of Peter Parker, that we've really addressed that for, like, adult superheroes. So, I mean...
Dan would be proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's quintessential Marvel. It's the whole, like, Spider-Man gets the check, but he can't cash it because it was given to Spider-Man. Anyone can put on a Spider-Man costume. It's like we've taken that quintessential Marvel and we've just kind of put it through kind of this great filter and this great lens. We've added like kind of a little more of a tragic kind of realism to it.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, just sort of what the action sequence opens us up to. I love that. My favorite thing they kind of got in here, of course, we have Henry Jackman doing the score, very much the guy who did the Civil War. More importantly, did the Captain America Winter Soldier themes.
Yeah,
including the Winter Soldier theme.
The Winter Soldier theme for the sequence with Bucky.
That was great. But seriously, that whole opening, what it was accomplished not just by the score, but also I felt was just overall, everything was kind of clicking. It was a very movie quality aerial battle to me, where it's just this. You had great tension of the Libyan airspace, the borders, the whole. It's the Libyans. No, but you had like this the whole thing of like he has 90 seconds before he reaches Libyan airspace. His thruster is damaged. It's that Winter Soldier editing of, oh god, I don't know if he's gonna make it. You have Red Wing in the action. He's using the wings as shields. Yeah. And the plane's nosediving, and we put Batroc in his comic book colors. This is awesome.
Yeah,
it's great. So yeah, it was. I think it was just a really cool thing to see Falcon just kind of in the swing of things. And again, I mean, I know there's obviously there's probably some CG within that canyon sequence for safety's sake. I'm sure.
No, Dragon. But Anthony Mackie just was like literally on a wing jetpack thing the whole time.
They blew up hundreds of helicopters in real life, just to get it real.
I'm sorry,
Dragon style.
What I'm getting at is I wonder if perhaps they did a little bit of a GoPro thing when they jump out of the plane, though. Perhaps like some of those wingsuit guys might have been actual, at least for the initial jump.
Maybe.
Possible.
All right.
Crazy things have happened.
So sorry, I'm kind of like I'm jumping around here with my thoughts. Can we get to the Bucky side of things really quick? Because he didn't get much screen time this episode. Not nearly as much screen time as I was thinking he would have. But it was all really interesting stuff, though.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm coming off of my watch of The Punisher Season 2. So I got to admit, a lot of this stuff feels like a better version of the counseling that Jigsaw was getting in that season. Just like, whereas with Jigsaw, it's just like, it's obviously blatantly terrible. Like, it's a terrible therapist who has very, very biased intentions. Whereas this, it's like, okay, it's like a dude who's very messed up, much like much like Billy Russo, but he's actually getting some help. He like this therapist. He's a pain in her ass, but she genuinely wants to help this guy out. I don't know. I thought it was nice.
Yeah, it's a good change of pace from the like super typical therapist scenes where they're almost answering like a therapy robot.
Right. Yeah,
like,
totally.
I'm trying to help you. You have to tell me how you're feeling. But like she's got some personality to her, and
like she's
clearly a soldier, and like
yeah. She's fed up with his shit, and she'll call him on it, and I like that.
Yeah. Gulliver, did you recognize the actress? I mean, I don't know if you watched this show, but she's really good character in the show Bosch on Amazon. She's a lieutenant in that show. She's like the boss lady.
Okay.
Anyway, Dr. Raynard, I concur with you, Gulliver, in that she's a veteran as herself most likely, and she's a really good therapist. I love my favorite thing with the therapy, which by the way, I imagine it might be a bit of a real world pull. I mean, it's a logical thing to when kind of figure out what's the next step for Bucky, but Sebastian Stan in real life therapy. He does therapy on the regular, and many times he'll call up his therapist and do a session. And he's talked about this in interviews during like Civil War and stuff. That's how I know about that. But anyway, so I just love this the passive aggressive notebook gags so much because it's so true. We see it all the time.
Therapy long term can relate to that shit.
This is the constant. The minute the pen clicks, like
yeah,
screwed up or something interesting was said, and his little buddy is calling around. And that's from a guy who probably knows that feeling, just give him the real life therapy.
No, that was
okay,
great.
Well,
that was wonderful. That was like all the therapy stuff is like very authentic to what therapy is actually like, which I appreciate.
But I'm loving the aftermath on Bucky collectively, and I love kind of this. I felt again was really a perfectly teed off story for Bucky.
It's a brilliant setup. It's a fucking brilliant setup for him. Yeah.
This heartbreaking story of the Winter Soldier piecing his life back together on his own. Doesn't have his buddy Steve, the only other person on this planet who has a shared life experience for what he may have gone through. Again, the other 106-year-old guy. And now he's trying to move on. He's thinking about can a guy like this move on and settle down? It's like the old Captain America question: like, do I want the same guys? Do I want the same thing? The guy in the ice before the guy in the ice before he went in there wanted. And of course, we have the Winter Soldier's version of the catch-up list, the Cap head. It's less catch-up, it's more revenge and amends.
At first, when I saw the older gentleman, I thought he was an old Howling Commando war buddy.
I pondered that, but then I realized, oh wait a minute, Jim Morita is the principal at Peter Parker's school, so I don't know if that would necessarily work.
Right.
I know it's his grandson. My point is, I don't know if that. I think the implication is it's clearly passed, and we've now.
No. I very quickly got that it wasn't a Howling Commando. I'm just saying that's what my first impression was.
But Yori was a charming idea, though, with a heart. With the wonderful payoff.
Like I said, I think the setup is just freaking gold. And honestly, John Campea said this on his reaction podcast, and I kind of agree with him. That at this point, with everything teed up, all the action, all the Zemo stuff and everything, the scene that I am most looking forward to is going to be the inevitable scene where Bucky tells this dude what happened to his son. And oh my God, Dragon, get out the inside out issues, buddy.
Oh yeah. Again, just so perfectly teed up with that nightmare sequence. Again, with full on Winter Soldier to just now, and it's just it's great. And I love the 3 rules. I love the edit. Kelly Dixon did the edit on this. One of the 2 editors.
Nice.
Kelly Dixon, of course, for those who may not be aware, she is one of the main editors of Breaking Bad, and she did the first 3 seasons of Better Call Saul in terms of the edit. She's great. She hosts the Insider podcast for both shows.
Yeah. So she's kind of like the voice of the Albuquerque verse fans in a way.
Exactly. She kind of puts the party together. So
yeah.
Anyway, so I think she did an excellent job. I think my fair bit of editing and the whole thing. Don't know, I love like the heart kind of pounding, kind of opening action scenes, but I love the editing of the 3 rules, where 1, nothing illegal, 2, nobody gets hurt. Why isn't that number 1? One. And then my favorite gag in the whole thing, I was laughing so hard when it happened. I was so happy with the show. It's just this whole. He has a credo. He's almost like it's kind of like the Cell line at the end. I am at the affirmation. I am no longer the Winter Soldier. I am James Bucky Barnes. And you're part of my efforts to make amends. And it gives the smile. It gives the smile. It's just perfect.
Smile with mouth, but not with eyes.
Yes. Absolutely. So I was very happy with Bucky this episode.
All right.
Right.
What do we think of Sam's sister and that whole family dynamic? Because I thought that whole thing was really well handled. Like, to be honest with you, it felt a tiny bit Marvel Netflixy in terms of like, oh, okay, here's like a super street level situation that our heroes are going to have to deal with. But honestly, I like that because it's a marquee character that those super street level issues are happening to, which, as we said, outside of Peter Parker, is relatively rare to see on a big format like this.
Yeah,
I think that bank loan scene is probably the best scene in the episode. It's just Mackie's acting. And I'm sorry, just to loop back to the sister, which is why we're there. Yes, so the sister, Sarah. Though, by the way, a little fun fact: Cap's mother's name.
Sorry, every time there's a Sarah, I have to do it. I'm sorry.
Well, thank you for detracting from my little trivial point, Tiki. But yes, so Sarah. Little fun fact: Captain America's mother's name is Sarah. So,
oh, nice.
It's like that whole what was it, like Kennedy had like the secretary or something, like the whole there's a Kennedy working for a Lincoln or something. Anyway, small world. Anyway, but yeah, I think she was kind of great to seeing Sam Wilson's home life and getting like a little peek of what the Wilson family's life is. You know, like Paul and what is it? Paul and Darlene? Is it Paul and Darlene? Is that no? It's Paul and.
It sounds right.
Yeah, Paul and something with a D. I think it's Paul and Darlene being the parents of Sarah and Sam Wilson. Just ultimately, this is just like a great humbling story of Sam Wilson. His celebrity, he's a celebrity for sure, but that bank loan scene just conveys just that, as I said before, that grand and quintessential Marvel moment, just reflecting the tragedy of the times we find ourselves in now, where the family struggled. The idea is like his family struggled for 5 years when he was gone. He was probably the main. He was helping his sister out big time, her with 2 kids and a widow. And with him gone, she surely struggled. And all the good that he does, all the good that he's done in the MCU, and he can't get any credit to save his life. And he doesn't want anything fancy or special. He just wants like, hey, look, he's checked out his plan. He's done the research. Like, hey, listen, we qualify for this loan. Give us this loan.
Yeah.
And just like the subtlety in the acting, like all these like the whole selfie scene. He's just like Mackie's most charming SOB in the MC. Let's be honest. I mean, he and Paul Rudd, most charming SOBs in the MCU. But it's taking like the hope away from him, and that scene, the realization on his face. It's just great acting.
It's also very down to earth and kind of, acknowledging the problems that, regular people face and taking a superhero who may not be used to that kind of thing and putting them in it is a good message about the way that our society, unfortunately, treats people who are in the rough like that.
Yeah.
So especially when like half the population are suffering.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I like how it acknowledges that the Avengers Initiative is kind of like a goodwill-based program.
Yeah, there's been a lot of speculation, like, how the heck does this happen to Falcon? When people are saying, man, Tony Stark was a real tightwad, wasn't he? Here's what I'm coming down on. So one, just to kind of turn Tiki's opening joke into something here. It's like, we made finances compelling. We really did. And, so the idea is Tony Stark, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Gulliver or Tiki, is just that, Tony Stark provided housing and basically technological upgrades, gratis, for free. And you got to remember, Falcon, here's the thing people are forgetting, is that Falcon was only technically an Avenger for a year, from Ultron to Civil War, and then he was a fugitive. And then the blip happened. So even if he incurred any money, I'm sure it went to his sister, and then, again, that 5 years gone, that did not help. So even if there was money exchange and people are asking, wait a minute, how can Vision buy a house?
And also, I definitely take it that Sam is not the person to go to Tony for a handout. Like, he wouldn't even think of doing that. Yeah.
I also get the sense that, like, Sam probably has a military pension of some kind if he's technically retired. But, I mean, military pensions are pretty woefully inadequate.
Assumedly, he had like enough. That was
Right,
where he was.
right.
That's where he was getting his main source of income from. And like when the occupation he had was like working
Yeah.
at the I don't know if he volunteered or just he was at the vet center or not. So I don't know how that works,
Yeah.
but.
I also get the sense that Tony just like the thought of paying someone doesn't occur to him because he's never needed money for anything.
Yes,
that's a very fair point, Jacob.
So like if somebody, is like, hey, would you pay me? He'd probably be like, yeah, how much do you need? Especially if they're a member, but like they're all too nice to ask.
yes,
and he's
yes,
just like
exactly.
That makes
oblivious to
excellent
that.
sense.
That's exactly the
Gulliver.
situation.
Yeah, and also, just in case anyone's here, my theory, by the way, for how Vision bought that plot of land.
You just sell like a fingernail of his body.
Yes,
to
yeah,
buy
I know.
the
The
whole
easy
fucking
answer is
town.
like initially what I thought of is that you could just like somehow I don't know, like somehow like put like get interest on his body or something. Somehow he could like leverage his body into like collateral or something. I don't know,
Yeah.
but here, I think the actual answer is he did what Ultron did in Age of Ultron, where he basically he just kind of did like the Bitcoin thing, like Ultron did, like pay and claw all that money.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some ethical things, but he was kind of a fugitive anyway, so it's fine. Anyway, yes. So yeah, we examined the flaws of our heroes within kind of these two plot lines, and it's also with the money thing too. Last thing I got on the money thing is that unless you're Luke Cage, heroes don't take money. But again, it's an issue for our Marvel characters, so wonderfully that we get to explore here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, we kind of passed over something big, Dragon. That kind of.
Well, there's a lot of
relates back
stuff,
to,
Tiki. What do you got?
Well, I'm surprised you haven't brought this up yet. It relates back to one of your favorite elements of Winter Soldier. Putting the shield in the museum.
Okay, well, I was because you directed us to Bucky. I was being polite. I didn't want to just jump in.
Sorry.
Okay,
It
so let's talk.
belongs in a museum.
Okay, so I love going to the Smithsonian with all the Cap stuff, just instantly. But again, as I was mentioning earlier, with like the ironing scene, this is like the bigger payoff. Where again, I love just pushing in on like the moments of Falcon just contemplating. And again, it's such an interesting question we start the series out on. It's a pretty clear cut. We even start with the clip of like this feels like it belongs to somebody else. It doesn't. And it's so interesting that I think what we're connecting with the boat story, and I guess we'll find out, is that Sam Wilson, like there's a line where basically the line at the Smithsonian is something along the lines of, he doesn't believe in the symbol, but he believes in the people. The people are truly the symbol, not the item itself. And I think he's kind of a little hypocritical towards himself. I don't think he's woken up to it yet. So it's that the boat essentially is a symbol he's putting all the value in, where really it's the memories of the parents. So the boat, he does not need to invest like all the stuff in the boat, where he really needs, and he's just viewing the shield as that. But again, he's just not realizing, no, the way you feel about the shield is the way you should feel about the boat, and you should swap them. Okay, you should honor the legacy of the people. I think that's kind of where we're going with the stories. He's going to wake up to that, and he kind of gets a rude awakening at the end of the episode.
I think he wakes up to that by the end of the episode.
Yeah, by the end of the episode, for sure. And of course, that's the biggest thing. So, of course, the thing I'm most hyped going into this show for, by the way, the most hyped element I have outside of Zemo, I think we're all excited for Zemo, but U.S. Agent. I'm so looking forward to U.S. Agent.
To tell you the truth, I'm honestly a little bit more excited for U.S. Agent, just because conceptually I think it's an interesting idea. And Zemo I'm excited for, but we've already seen Zemo. It's just like it's someone we've already seen who's gonna definitely be wrapped up a notch. But I don't know. I just think U.S. Agent is I just think conceptually it works really well. I'm very excited.
Yeah, the
I hope they're gonna kind of take some cues from Homelander with it.
That's the question. The question is, again, I love that they've been very tight with.
I kind of got a Homelander vibe from him in that press conference.
He has a real good shit-eating grin.
The only thing we know about, the only thing we really truly know about this guy going is going to run on a football field at some point. That's the one shot they kept using for all the trailers. That's all we know. They're going to do like a little welcome wagon for him there.
Run on a football field while shoveling down an apple pie. Simultaneously somehow singing the national anthem.
But yeah, the question is, could it be, again, I think Homelander is the go-to most likely. That's instinctively what they're probably going to do.
I don't think it's going to be as dark as Homelander.
Well, no, I mean just in general, it's going to be it's going to be a darker Captain America being the idea more.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is there is a chance he could be a good guy in a complicated situation. That is also possible, but we won't know for sure.
Sure.
That's what I'm interested to see if they're going to maybe kind of go that route with it, possibly. But just the link to the Smithsonian point is again. So Sam Wilson, he's not putting value. He's putting value in Steve Rogers, and I assume he's feeling doubtful about himself. I think the boat thing is going to reveal maybe some shades of what also goes into his own self-doubt. So Sam Wilson's feeling doubtful about himself, being the operative point there. So he's putting the shield in the museum with all the other Captain America stuff. I love Rhodey, by the way. Rhodey pops up in the episode very fittingly.
That was a nice cameo.
Because the thought popped into my mind, like, yeah, he's working with the Air Force, and you know who else
totally
works with the Air Force?
I won't be surprised if we see him at least one more time this season too.
I'd love that, and I love even more so that we're kind of paralleling these guys as again they're the other they're both grieving their friends. I know Cap's essentially still alive for all we know at this point. We're keeping it a little ambiguous what exactly is going on.
The big question, I think the big question in the series is Chris Evans going to pop up at some point?
I'm hearing again, fight he keeps going back and forth on. No one's ever going to know until it happens.
Yeah, I you know what? I would respect them if they had the balls to not have a Chris Evans cameo.
Honestly, I'm not expecting Evans at this point. I'm not. I don't know. I know he's not going to pop up in this show unless they really switch things around majorly. I doubt that.
Right.
Here's the only if they're going to bring him back with the line, the little joke they have in this. I'm convinced if they ever bring him back, he's going to be in Secret Invasion because they talked up Cap on the moon. I think if anything, that's what they're setting up with that, assuming that's not a joke.
Yeah.
But so I mean, Rhodey, I think we're kind of setting Rhodey stuff up in here too on the sly here, where again we're setting up, him in Armor Wars, where again he has his own legacy story coming up.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really good idea to kind of tee both these guys up, and one calling out the other. U.S. agents. So the shield, the dirty pool with the shield. The government did some really dirty pool with this shield, man.
Yeah,
so classically in the comics, the way it goes is that the government did not want Sam Wilson to become Captain America, and there's a lot of tension when he took up the mantle. So we're kind of channeling that in an interesting way here, where it's like they're playing all nice as Sam, you made the right call, putting the shield where it belongs, and of course all the while they've been
says that, just like I do not trust this person anymore.
It's already like a slightly shady line.
Is it basically the same sort of like situation with Hayward, where it's like as soon as he opens his mouth, it's like, oh, okay. We got the bad guy, folks. Bad guy right here.
A lot faster payoff on that, yeah.
Right.
Like end of the episode. Don't trust that bearded guy. Try looking up the guy's name. He's just like government official right now. He just got that. It's just bearded government official. I'm adding the bearded part, but yeah. It's just they have like their new government sponsored Captain America, presumably, and again when you think about this too, someone who's going to play ball with the Accords. No guy going rogue. No Accords situation with this guy at all. And of course, we got an All American. We got a Russell in the costume. We got Wyatt Russell, darn it.
Right.
And I just love we're raising these Winter Soldier caliber questions of government power and tactics versus like the simpler days of the 40s. So like Captain America would kind of like, as we kind of saw through his worldview challenged in the MCU as it kind of expanded and went through, and the whole Hydra affair of it all. So I love that we're raising all this. I'm so psyched with the U.S. agent of it all. This is great. And my heart is just so crushed for Sam in that moment. The show is emotionally affecting me like, oh, get out. I'm digging it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. All right. Well, gee, guys, I think that was a pretty economically timed conversation here. I don't really
think we're missing one big thing.
I'm sorry, what?
Flag Smashers.
Oh, okay. You go ahead with that, guys. You know a lot more about that than I do. I'm kind of just along for the ride on
that. The biggest thing that I want to put out there and just see you guys' opinions on is when Sam's friend
Torres, Joaquin Torres.
Okay, yeah. Torres.
By the way, is he set up for he's supposed to be the new Falcon?
Interesting.
Well, at least in the comic, that's where they go with it. I assume they're teeing that up for here too. Okay. That's a guess. I'm sorry, go on.
We'll see. He has a line where he's talking about the Flag Smashers, and he says like they want to remove all borders, and in my mind I was thinking like that seems fine. I'm okay with that.
Like,
well, that's the point.
we're
That's
all
how
a
they
bunch
got
of
so many of them.
humans.
Like Torres points it
Like,
out.
Yeah. So I'm worried that it's going to be this kind of like, unpleasantly like, lean a little far away from the patriotic
Right.
and into
I
like
hear
the
ya. I hear
nationalist
ya.
perspective, which I don't care for. But I'm hopeful that the way that they're establishing the Flag Smashers, is beyond this point. Shows their true colors, and that's not just what they're about.
Yeah, no, Jacob, that's a great point. I absolutely hear you on it.
Yeah.
No, I'm not much of a political animal, folks. If I'm botching some of these terms, forgive me. But essentially, if I understand it correctly, they're supposed to be like the Flag Smasher group. They're kind of like they're anti-nationalist post-blip, being the idea.
Mm-hmm.
They're against the borders and everything. Basically, like the thing that makes nations. They want to be like one nation collectively, roughly.
Yeah.
It might be an oversimplification, but I love that we're tying that into.
Fine.
I love that we're tying that into the blip, though.
Yeah.
And that, it's again like the idea that everyone was like, we kind of cut down the population anyway. Why not kind of meld things together? And now that ends, so they have a point that's garnering support, but it's a point that you can't really change with that really radical, really.
To me, it kind of reminds me of the sort of political stuff that they did on a show like The Leftovers, except not as well thought out in terms of rule building. I don't know. That's just kind of where I'm at with it.
I haven't seen it, but you've mentioned it a few
Gulliver.
times, so
It's fantastic.
At some point.
No, I see where you're going with that, Tiki. Yeah, I mean, there's something kind of.
It's like with The Leftovers like absolutely marinates in like, okay, like if this event actually went down, if 3% of the world's population just suddenly disappeared, what would be the moral and political ramifications of it? And that show just absolutely just marinates in that concept. And it's fascinating. But no, with this, it's kind of just like, it kind of like just tries to dip its toe into the philosophical realm. But like, I'm with Gulliver that it kind of comes off as just a little bit like, like, oh, those guys bad.
Yeah. So we'll see. I'm open to, being proven wrong in that sense. But I do think that the world could use a little more unity as a whole.
Yeah.
So
I think it's going to be interesting.
I'm not opposed to the idea as pitched. I am opposed to terrorism. So if they're up to some terrorism,
well, I'd like to say we all are.
Yeah. But it keeps happening.
Yeah,
the problem.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry, I don't mean to get too,
it's all
get too outside the fun of discussing stuff.
No, sure, but that's the thing. I like that it's an interesting. Again,
honestly, I feel like the show kind of like invites those conversations, which I do think is like for better or for worse, definitely interesting on the show's part.
And they're clearly trying to, make it feel like it's a part of the real world, even if it is technically a, science fiction or fantasy.
It's like it's a logical conclusion because again, for 5 years, people got used to a certain way of living, and again, even Rhodey teed this up early in the episode that again, alliances were made that are now broken because people want to get back into the swing of things, and they kind of question the logic of it. Like, why are we disturbing like somewhat of like a 5-year peace just to go back to the way things were? This is not progress. Right. And these are very interesting things I think are going to feed into each other quite possibly. And of course, I mean, the way the Flag Smashers operate, the whole like flash mob tactic, which is really interesting for how they commit their heist. And they have super soldiers, like the main Flag Smasher. We're going to explore a couple episodes from now, or at least maybe, I don't know, maybe next episode. That they have some form of super soldier, which I have a theory. And it's going to lead into something I'm really dreading if it goes this way. But my theory is, the fine theory is that the credits of this show have been really Easter egg heavy. So even if you watch the credits, it's you're gonna be pausing like crazy. But before the credits pop up, you have like this little hidden document, like what's the term you put like the black things over the censored documents,
black boxes,
redacted. There, thank you.
Redacted.
Like the redacted documents. And they have like these little Easter eggs like Madripoor, the X-Men the X-Men city. Like the Wolverine tied in Madrid. He always went to Madripoor, and we did a lot of the Tokyo stuff with him. I think it could be
right.
Yeah. So he did stuff like that. Anyway, so like they have like a lot of Easter eggs in there for stuff that might be popping up in the show. Like the power broker is mentioned. So there's this guy called the power broker who possibly is responsible for maybe the powers in question. Like this guy might be responsible for making the super soldiers. So imagine this. I don't know what the U.S. agent's deal is. I don't know if he's human or if he has. I want to say he has like a super soldier serum of some kind. If he does, or maybe if they add that layer to him here, perhaps. Maybe one of the big kind of like maybe we can't trust the powers that be, literally, is that the power broker who's feeding this faction also gave the government's golden boy his powers.
If they really wanted to take a hard left turn and sideways introduce the X-Men, you could go the Mr. Sinister route too.
Oh man,
That
with Bryan Cranston as Mr. Sinister.
Yeah, that'd be great. He wants to play him.
I know he does. I know he does, Dragon.
Now okay. Here's all that's great. Any way they slice that's great. Here's what I'm dreading. Okay, there's one reference. If there's one Easter egg or if this one name pops up, I'm gonna be. That won't kill the show, but it's gonna make me really sad. If the name comes up, there have been a couple power brokers, but the one that's usually the go-to. His name is Dr. Carl Mollis. If I hear the name Dr. Carl Mollis, more importantly, if we see Dr. Carl Mollis with a name, that's going to bum me out because that's a Jessica Jones season 2 reference, and that guy's dead.
Oh,
so that will be the nail in the coffin for Marvel Netflix. If that guy shows up, that's not going to be. Again, basically, I will say Netflix has to be like a multiverse thing, which I'm not crazy about.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially given our Daredevil hopes, because that'll be like you can excuse the dark look. That's a cosmetic change. Like we just changed how the front of that book looks, but that's something that there's no putting the genie back in that bottle. Dr. Carl Mollis shows up, so that's the one Easter egg I'm dreading if that happens. Like the only time I've ever had to dread an Easter egg in the MCU. All right, let's see.
Rotten Easter egg at the bottom of the batch.
Okay, and lastly, there's a bit of a we know this actor's been cast in the show. But the big question is if he's going to play who we all think he's going to play. We saw in the redacted credits, Carl Lumbly, the wonderful actor, plays the Martian Manhunter, does a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah,
the people are speculating he's going to play the original prototype Captain America, Isaiah. Well, not the original, but the guy after Steve Rogers, the next stage of Winter Soldier,
interesting,
Super Soldier, Isaiah Bradley, which is a really fascinating story, by the way. Unfortunately, it's not really widely available for everyone. I think maybe you can get it digitally, but it's a hard one to get your hold of these days.
It's out of print right now.
Yeah, I hope they change that.
Young Avengers, if they ever end up doing that,
because that ties into the Patriot thing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Yeah, he's Patriot is his grandson.
Oh right, I forgot. Okay, so that's awesome. Yeah, that's gonna be. It makes even more sense for them to do Isaiah Bradley, which is going to be a really interesting layer to the MCU's Captain America story if they go full tilt with Isaiah Bradley. So that's going to be fascinating. Okay, anyway,
we know we're getting Kate Bishop Hawkeye, so like there are semi-established seeds, and we have seen Wiccan now.
Yep, Wiccan and maybe Speed if they want to just change him and add to the roster. Who knows?
Yeah.
Like America, not America Ferrera, America Chavez. That's the one. Yeah.
Great. Right. So final
thanks
thoughts,
to our commenters. Oh, go on.
No, it's all good. I'll shout out the commenters at the end. Final thoughts.
I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I'm halfway sold currently, and I'm really interested to see what happens. I really hope that the seeds that they've laid down are grown and reaped in delightful ways. That's kind of where I'm at, I guess. We don't know enough yet to really like get deep into whether or not I can call it good. It's enjoyable so far, but I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, I think episode 1 was solid character setup for sure, but other than the kick-ass opening action sequence, it wasn't really much more than that. But that being said, I mean, for an episode 1, it does pretty much exactly what it needs to do as a good hook at the end. So I will tell you that my dad, who had no idea that that U.S. agent was coming was pretty stoked on that cliffhanger. So, like we forget that like we're marinated in this culture, and so we know like pretty much like everything that's gonna fucking come from these shows, like months before they premiere. But folks like my dad who are like genuine, like hardcore, like old school Captain America fans from like decades before any of us were born, it's like he hasn't really followed the modern comics, but he loves this mythology. And so watching it with him kind of definitely gives me a lens to appreciate it through, because I'm so used to the whole like leak and spoiler culture of like, oh, such and such is going to be this. Like Evan Peters, the way they did that was fantastic, but I had heard the leaks. I knew it was pretty much inevitable that it was going to happen at some point, so anyways, Dragon, your final thoughts.
I'm happy as a clam with this one, man. I'm very stoked for the next episode, of course. But I mean, yeah, seriously, episode one. I love the setup. I love the intimacy of the character setup. And again, you got some little action to hold you over. But more importantly, again, it's just we're teeing up some really interesting stuff. I mean, I'm feeling like I'm back watching Winter Soldier in a certain respect in terms of like all the stuff we're hitting the tone, we're hitting the intrigue, we're hitting the tension. It's like all of it is there. And I have no doubt it's going to impress as it goes forward. So I'm very satisfied with it. I'm very eager for more.
All right, and Gulliver, really quick, if I'm not mistaken, there's something that's relatively hot off the Hot Chocolate Media presses. Would you like to that?
Yes, I would. If anybody out there is interested in horror, we have an original horror podcast that just launched its first episode. It's called Dead North. You can find it wherever you find podcasts. Available through quite a few different places.
Is it also on hotchocolatemedia.net?
It is. Yes.
Not .com, because .com's a scam.
You can also use .com. We actually own both domains.
Oh, nice.
Never mind. Both are good then. Forget what I said earlier.
Yeah. We also considered buying hotchocolate.media, but I feel like that web address would be forgotten immediately as soon as you say it.
That would have been a terrible idea if you got .media.
Anyway, just random tangent, but there's 5 pieces of original horror by different theater companies in and around the Minnesota and the Midwest. Nice. There's quite a variety of things. There's some that are a little bit more surreal. There's some that are very grounded. My personal favorite is an adaptation of in this episode anyway is an adaptation of the Tale of the Monkey's Paw, which is a pretty famous Victorian horror story. And it's really, really well performed and edited. But there's quite a lot of good stuff in that episode, and there's more on the way. So if you like horror, definitely check it out. And if you have any questions or just want to chat about stuff we make, you can always reach out to us. We're very, very open. We like chatting with other artists and people who like art. So we're around.
All right, Gulliver, I got to give you props to doing your part to help with the local theater community, my friend. I respect the hell out of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for a lot of people who do horror or do comedy or do any kind of creative work the past year. So
I bet. Yeah. I'd like to get involved with that myself if I not that specifically, but like local theater in my own area if I have the time, but I really don't. But no, I commend the hell out of that, Gulliver. That sounds like an awesome project.
I appreciate it.
All right, so big thanks to Donovan Martin, Claude Karinga, and Abe March for joining us this fine evening. And don't forget, guys, tomorrow night we're talking Snyder Cut. I will have the link up on Twitter as soon as we find out a time for it. Be there or be square. Tiki's going to eat a lot of crow. All right, well, that'll do it for us this week as we holster our remotes till the next installment calls for the draw. Mano y mano. Just plus and us.
You sunk my battleship.